Bye.
Super fast, yeah.
All right, well, let's see what we got. We'll start with ES. Whenever you're in all-time highs range like we are now, usually you want to rely as much as you can on obviously the previous day, but more importantly, the previous week. Uh, as long as they're not breaking the value area lows of the previous one or such, and the framing doesn't occur to the downside, you really don't have a lot to short. Your still mentality should not be trying to catch the tops right now. It's still, they're framing up, guys. They're not, when you look at the dailies here, even though we had a little bit of a pullback, let me just hide a bunch of these indicators for now. Look at the daily. I mean, this is still, they haven't convinced anyone that they want to sell off yet. When you look at these candles here, I mean, besides this one here, which was probably some tax or closing positions here, they didn't really sell off, and they're above that now. So when you think about all-time highs, we're in that range there. Previous highs here, I believe. Let me make sure. Yeah. So we're kind of right at it right now. We do have this candle here, but look at the volume. Shouldn't this candle carry a little bit more volume from the bigger picture if you're stopping here? As you're going up, right? I mean, the volume here doesn't check out on this run, but we don't see many sellers yet. So on weekly here, you have a couple of similar candles from before. You have this one. This one's more of a doji, I would say, gravestone doji candle rather than this one here. But you had some wicks here as well. So this one here, I'm not sure. Let's see if we can create a new low on the weekly, and I think that'll be a good indication that we might have a little bit of a pullback, right? Like a healthy pullback. In terms of volume profiles, you do want to start somewhere on the monthly and then kind of go back to the weekly, daily, just to kind of understand where are we in terms of value, right? So if you look at the monthly here, we'll go on 4 hours. Remember on this to use ETH. And are you going to start? Takes forever. All right, so if you guys look here, let me just take off the developing POC. So if you look, I mean, the month of December, in terms of distributions, it's really poor structure in between. So you have one node on the top, and then you have one on the bottom. So, and if you guys remember anything about that, double distributions, the bulls can't lose this level here, right? In terms of bigger picture, right? I'm not talking about whether it happens tomorrow. I don't really care, but they can't afford to lose this level here. This node, if this one is lost, the odds of us catching this, all the way down here are probably high. So keep that in mind. I would mark this zone on your charts, right? And just know that it's kind of like a 4-hour supply, right? It's not little, right? So they need to close a candle below it, and then you need some sort of imbalance and then bring it back for you to kind of see if there's sellers again presenting with the ask, right? So that's something I would watch on a bigger level. And then that would mean we're below the December value area low. That would indicate, right, from the seller's perspective that they stepped in, responsible seller stepped in. And now are we going to get people backing here, justifying, hey, we need higher prices? Or we're going to fall in. And if you do lose this, really, really high odds. I mean, just look at the profile. Even if you just grab the bottom to this top here, there's really not much besides this little period. So that's my bias on a higher time frame, right? When I look at this was, I would mark these levels, right? Even the December. Just so I know where I can expect to see some buyers stepping in to defend their positions based on value, right? So far, so good. Anyone confused?
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's good so far.
Okay. In terms of big level for the retest, I mean, just look at this. You have, if they offer this level here, this would be great somewhere in this zone. You will have a value area high and a value area low, but look at where the POC is. It wouldn't take much with naked eye to figure out where is it, right? If you connect these two here completely, look, it's right here. 45, 63, that December value area is going to be super important as the next level. So if you lose this level, high chances you come here. I wouldn't ignore this level. At this level, they can do some serious damage, right? A lot of people will be piling in on the late shorts as we're coming in. Because remember, a lot of people are more like recession. We're going to dump. We're going to do this. You know, they're speculative, right? And if they have positions that they're kind of trying to put a good word for themselves in the universe, that's not the way to trade it, right? If they do lose this level here, for instance, 45, 55 zone, if they lose this, then there's potential for a major pullback, in my opinion. That's where things start to go probably towards 41.40, and then you guys saw the bounce, obviously, here. If that level is lost, imagine the magnitude of sellers and aggression they had to break it. So if they're able to break this, that would be big news, right? That'd be a big deal. But if they lose this, I wouldn't expect, you would have 4,400 and then probably come back here for a retest 42.68 and then the lows. Okay. So we are out of the balance on the monthly, and I would think that we are going to test that balance here probably this week at some point if they want to go higher. Let me change this to weekly. Okay. Are you guys noticing anything about the trend?
It's looking weak.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. This is your value areas, right? They slow down, they accumulated. Your value areas here are a little bit of overlapping, right? Even though Friday seems like a P shape here. Let's see. Not Friday, I'm sorry. This is the whole week. The whole week looks kind of like the P shape profile though. Came back for a perfect bounce. Yeah. So I mean, reclaiming this 20, I think sets up really nice opportunity for 80% on a weekly. They're right at the value area low. They got to hold this. And then you see in between that, you have 6 points. Would I trade this zone? Does everybody remember? Would I trade this zone here?
No.
This would be non-tradable zone, guys. Even though it's 6 points, but this can be really, really choppy here. This is where they can build value above this one. They're trying to prep a move for down back into this value here, but it'd be really difficult to trade in between these points. I mean, it can really be choppy there, I would say. Let me just
Shorty, can you please repeat that? I got kicked out for a second. I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, so we closed, I would say, barely inside this value area low for a weekly, right? I would say we're in balance on the lower end, right? So right now, either they're going to step in and they're going to defend this level here. And then a week prior to that, we had this value where we rejected it here, right? So if you look, this whole here was rejection and it was quick drop below the value, and then they reclaimed it and then popped. So now if you can't reclaim this value, obviously somebody's saying, hey, it's too expensive here. So they're most likely going to look to see, can they get traction here? Let's say they clear this 48.23 and make a higher high. Then most likely they're headed to this zone, right? But if they stay in this zone right here, what am I trading? 6 points of chop potentially, whether, a two-sided activity that's super tight on them deciding whether they go long or short. So that zone becomes non-tradable for me here. It's stuck between two values, and I don't want to be the one to find out what's the value, like on a surprise note.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you.
So I'd watch this, and then obviously you guys see that, you know, if they can clear these equal highs here, because, you know, if I was to draw this, the POC is gonna be here somewhere when I don't extend it on the bottom. So somewhere around this level, if you can regain this, you have a high chance to run it all the way about 37, about 13 points or so on ES, which is not bad. So let's see. This is where we got the bounce. When we call the low of the day here.
That area that you just specified, if it can go above that, it could go. Looks like it's still a single print area.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So isn't that a situation where if we go above that area
That's correct.
and hold, we're bullish, and if we
That's
stay
correct.
below it, we're bearish, or if we
That's
go into it and fail, we're bearish.
That's
Okay.
correct. That's very good. We'll get to it. We'll check the single prints here, but that's a very good observation. Yes. So right now, I mean, from the tonight's side, they cannot lose 13. If they lose 13, we're going to 96. So this is a trade that I would definitely look for tomorrow. No. I would look for this, you know, and if you can do, you know, you're talking about what, 17 points maybe. So you could risk 5 points on this trade, which would bring you back to the previous equality area low, which is not a bad setup here to take this. At least I'll watch for this. They got to build value inside of this here for me to go long, but I prefer them cleaning up this equal highs, and then they could do this run here, which is what, about same amount of points, 18, 16 points. Does that make sense for both? Oh, not for both. I'm sorry, for everyone.
Yes.
It does.
I'll definitely watch that. And then losing 13, man, this is going to be pretty juicy. I think that happens super quick. And if they lose 96, I think things, you know, get a little bit uglier. Then most likely we're testing these levels in between. I would expect people to show up at this 47.70. When you guys zoom out, if you go on like 3 hours, you'll see why I say that. Let's see. Where's that little button? So if you guys, you know, kind of zoom out, this is the last volume node before this one, right? So I would expect buyers to show up here. And sometimes what they do in these levels is, and you just have to think about this, right? When you're trading, what if they crack below this level and regain it, right? You're watching for that. You know, you look here, if you crack this zone here and you regain it, that's not really bearish. That's them running short stops, and they're going to trigger everyone. And then they're going to go the opposite side, right? That's where people scream, you know, oh, my contract was up and I didn't take it, you know, and moments later, they're zero. So I would watch this level to be pivotal for downside, more downside. If we want to clear 47.71, that confirms the bias, bearish bias. But they cannot lose, obviously, this December value area high. I would say that's super important for them. 96, they bounce, they lose it. They lose this, things start leaking a little bit more bearish in the pullback. And this is a new year, so I would consider, you know, there might be people willing to sell some here. Okay, so that's weekly here. I would say not much more than that. I mean, the break of this on the top of the value area high and the, you know, low is going to be a major indication, because if they do crack below 96, what would that mean? Does anyone know? On a weekly time frame. That would mean we're what? We're framing down on a weekly. So if you lose that 96, that's, you know, a big shift, and it's not that far away. So it can happen probably in a day. Maybe framing down all on a weekly time frame all of a sudden, just because it was a tight range. Now look where we're stuck here. Yeah, they're having a hard time here. 23. Yeah. If they can clear this 24 beam, that's kind of where I would look for potential long, because there's a bunch of POCs here. Yeah. Yeah. If they can clear this zone here, 22 to 24, this would be my bias switch for the day on a shorter time frames, guys. Does that make sense? Right here.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys have some notes. That's where we're rejecting. Okay. On the daily, let me see what we got. We did the daily just now. So, okay. Say this has to be cleared on this POC. 2375 would be the level I would go after. All right. So from a summary perspective, on the weekly, we're still imbalanced, kind of hanging on by a thread. On the monthly, we're above the December value area high, indicating that we want to go higher. The value is higher. If they do fall inside December value area high, and especially lose that level that we just talked about, the chances of taking a pretty decent pullback are pretty high. You're talking about maybe 200 points or so to pull back. That would be pretty good, right? For the market, might be a healthy pullback, but we'll see. If we do crack above the bullish bias here, I would not look to short immediately. Once you get to this level, obviously, you don't want to be the one doing the price discovery as you're arriving here, where you had this nice accumulation and then they sold off. This is a nice candle here, 2 nice candles, and now they're bringing it back, and you want to initiate long here. Just think about it. Think about market auction. They're bidding on a product here. They go higher, they brought it. They go higher, they brought it, and then they sold off that product. It went cheap, and now you're bringing it back quickly back to that crime scene where it got sold off, right? I don't think necessarily makes sense to go immediately long here. Let them, negotiate, let them break this, let them build value, and then they'll give you an opportunity to go long. If you're a momentum trader here, I would personally not take it, but okay. What did I miss? Weekly. So targets we have. Any questions on ES? Okay.
Shorty, question. In regards to the TPO from Friday, and how the single prints end at, I believe, 27.
Okay. Let's see if it turns on here today.
I was gonna ask, would you be looking to take that as a potential short, although your bias is bullish, just 4 points below?
Let me just turn it on for a second. Let me see if it's working. This, your bias turns bullish. I would not necessarily look to catch this whole move here. I would look to close this into the strength rather than waiting for this perfect exit of 34.5, because if you sold off here with nice imbalanced candles like we have here, it's not the first time either, right? You came here, now you lifted the offer a little bit more, but you're still selling, even though this aggressive selling here is not the same magnitude as we had here. I would still be cautious, right? Because if there's more supply there to be offered, right, they could secretly even sell off more. Now it doesn't mean the last tap carries less inventory, but I would just be careful. If I go along here, I would be closing into the strength. If they, let's say, you draw this POC here that you have right here, and that would be the POC 34.5. If they go above this and fail, I would short that. I would definitely short that. But on the first tap here, I would not short. On the immediate,
Okay.
On the first tap, I don't know if I would. Just because it was Friday, it was last day of the year. Yeah, they can play some weird games, in terms of volume and inventory. So I would give them a little bit more time to set up what they really want to do here. Okay. And then I think this is what you talked about, single prints, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I guess that yellow line 30 does not help me. Okay. So 48.27, you have single prints. So if you're a bull, I just want to see if everybody understands this being because you answered it. If you're a bull, what level do you want? Do you want the top level of the single prints or the bottom level? And for new people, just be patient. We'll have a class. You'll catch up what single prints are and the concepts. I'm a bull. What level do I
The
want?
bottom.
Bottom or the top?
The bottom.
Bottom.
If you're a bull, you want this level to be taken out. Does anyone want to take a wild guess, like explaining logically why?
It was selling down there, so you want to reclaim on the top.
Yeah, exactly. They were aggressively selling here. So if you go on footprints and you check if there's any imbalances at 27, being if you have it up, take a look between 27.5 and like maybe 26.5. Just because I don't know if you guys should.
There's one around 25.
Okay, so there are some sellers in that range. I would expect them to be aggressive there. If there's a seller in this range here, I would want to make sure that I can auction above an aggressive seller. If you're trying to buy, let's say you're bidding on a product and they immediately fill you on your inventory nonstop, that would mean that the business or a person that you're buying from has a lot of inventory at that level. Right? If you're constantly not put on the hold or, dated orders or whatnot, lead times, there's plenty of supply. If there's plenty of supply at the price that you're in now, right? Well, you as a buyer, what could you do? If I know you have a business and I want to buy more products from you and you have a lot of supply, what should you
Negotiate
do
new
as a
price.
buyer?
Negotiate a lower price.
Yeah, you should negotiate a lower price, right? It would make sense. So if you're negotiating a low price, then, for a buyer, in this case, as a buyer, you want to buy cheaper here, but the seller, aggressive sellers should not go above this level. If they want to, sell more, dependent on overnight inventory that we get, if a seller wants to have offloading prices at this level and a buyer wants to go above, buyer has to absorb all these orders and supply that he has. All the inventory from this seller has to be absorbed by this buyer. So that's where your, limit sells meet the market buys, and then they kind of hash it out and see. You want this level where it started, not where it ended, because this is where it ended. Does that make sense? Why the top level, not the bottom?
Yeah.
You want to absorb that the stronger guy up front where he initiated and started. Because remember, you have initiative sellers and buyers, right? So in this case, this is definitely what? Here, this is your initiation. This is an initiative seller sitting here. So if you can take out an initiative seller, well, odds are that, you might go higher.
Would you wait for a retest on that one?
If I was to see a candle that's, a
Wrong.
major break,
Yeah.
maybe not, right? Because we could get out of the gate tomorrow, and think about the news, right? It would be 2024 kicks off with a bang.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what do you think the algos do? Oh shit. Oh, we missed the opportunity. We're not missing it this time. So they can literally take off. If they take this level, your ear should perk up. I would be cautious of that P that, previous week POC and value area high. They're giving 3 points in between. They can set up a lot of traps, guys, here. Imagine if they start tomorrow. Let me see, where are we on tonight? No, nowhere. Let's say they have an open drive tomorrow right out of the gate, and it looks, pretty healthy. They get out and they do this, and then whoop, that would not be open drive anymore, right? It would change the type of behavior that auction took. It went from confident to extremely opposite. And you can only do that when you have a lot of opposition that's meeting at your prices and they don't like it. And it's just like anything in life. I mean, I had a funny conversation with somebody last night, how Americans are not strong enough that where they can reject products from big companies. And I listened to the points, right? We talked for an hour. And his biggest point is that they're divided, too much division between people, and that they're just not going to stand for one. And it makes sense, right? But think about when people boycott companies, right? There was the whole transgender. Remember Chick-fil-A when they made an announcement about the gay? I don't know if you guys remember.
Yeah, a while back.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A stuck to its guns, and their sales went up.
Yep.
Right. So those are indirect messages of people, I would say, right? It's not that Americans don't react. Maybe like French, they go and protest on the streets and burn shit or whatever, right? But there's different ways you can financially impact somebody, indirectly as well. Like you stop buying their products or whatnot, you get to that level, and you can apply the same concepts of that in the stock market, right? And private equity firms, they play a major role, I would say, in manipulation, the way they're structured. So that's where market doesn't become so clear sometimes on what the intentions are. Even though I would say we're in a bullish trend, for past, I don't even know how long, since last year, October or 22, you're still making higher highs, higher lows. You haven't stopped on the bigger trends, right? You're still kind of doing this. You had like a little bit of pullback here, 40 on 40, and then you're back to all-time highs and above. So either somebody's manipulating this, or what if there's no supply to sell? Right? If they're not, because a lot of, the big firms, you have a couple of, Blackstone and a few others, they own a lot. Right? So they have to be in a really good alignment when the selling starts, and you don't necessarily have to time that, right? That should not be your goal as a trader. As an investor, it might be, but as a trader, you don't really care. I don't personally care where it goes tomorrow, but I do care on the investment side, where does it go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And if there's not enough, like you said a minute ago, that is not enough sellers or selling going on, it's just going to keep going higher.
Yep. They're not willing to sell to you. You got to offer more.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a nasty. What do you guys see here? What's wrong with this profile?
Looks like a D-shaped profile, but
You got a poor hide there.
Yeah, it's definitely a poor high.
yeah.
That's a pretty strong poor high, considering there's really no single prints much around there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a poor high in the D shape. And then look at the axis. Do you think this is a strong axis here? It's a very poor axis low. Borderline, and then look what they did to it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, 48.27 is going to be a pretty big level here. Ideally, they crack this tomorrow above and fail. Oh man, that'd be really fun.
If they break it, I could see them get 3150 and fail and not make it all the way up.
37.50.
No, 3150.
Yeah.
It's the peak of the node there. If they want to fail right before the other.
Right here, there's 29.5, and then you have 32.25.
I'm looking at a volume profile peak.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, from TPO perspective, it's a little bit different, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the value area high shifting down, value area low definitely shifted down. We closed below the half back on the daily, so it's leaning more bearish than bullish from day to day. The bounce in 96, which was previous week POC prior to that, held that together on volume profile though. Just run that in parallel for a second. Let's do this. Yeah, see that level? The bullish bias above. Even on your volume profile, when you do a cumulative,
Mhm.
here, we'll just take a look at this screen here. Look at that.
Mhm.
I mean, if you can crack above this, right? And this is where it seems to be, you know, where they're offering more inventory at this level. If you can absorb this guy, I think you run to the poor high.
Mm.
Because the poor high was left there means unfinished business, right? So, and I think in ETH period, let's check. There's another higher high than 39. Yeah, there's another higher high here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like 4. Yeah, they tested that wasn't that Wednesday night, and they never came to it. So they never cleaned up this here either, because this is definitely a poor high. Look at this. Definitely a poor high. I mean, poor high here, poor high here. A lot of unfinished business here. And they crack this. I think you can hit 34 rather quickly here, and then you have that major shelf here now. Not that I look back in coordination with this, it might not be a bad short instantly here on the POC because you accumulated
30
2 days.
That 3450 is actually really good because it's a TPO POC as well as a 2 days prior day high.
Yeah, and it's a high. They had a shelf here. This was a liquidation. This one here was liquidation, long liquidation here. They liquidated inventory, they drove it up, and then they did it again. Right. So, and you see the retest they gave him here. The only thing is if this guy fired all his fireworks here, then if they absorb above, phew, I would not short much above here. Because they're gonna definitely fix this poor highs on the, you know, I would say on 3 day, maybe 2 day period, 2 day balance. It's really, really bad poor high. Okay. All right. Well, any questions so far on ES? Is anyone confused? Okay. I'll write up in the Shorty's corner just because I think there is some juicy setups for tomorrow that can be almost like 2 trades. One of them hits, you're good. I'll write them up in Shorty's corner, especially for newer folks. You guys can kind of start resembling the language that we use in the Discord. Okay. All right, guys. Well, hopefully you have a good night. See you guys tomorrow.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Shorty.
Shorty.
Have a good night. Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good night.
All right.